welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We have with us as our guest in our studio, Debbie Ford, who is the author of numerous books, the last one of which is The 21-Day Consciousness Cleanse. And this is an opportunity to experience actually a lot of Debbie's work in one fell swoop, so to speak. She takes a lot of the teachings that she has been giving to us for years in all of her books, and condenses it in a very practical way into a 21-step program for us all to kind of follow and do that necessary cleansing and looking and self-review that is so important to the idea that we have on our show of creating a better world. It's not just tinkering with the outside, it's actually first tinkering with the inside. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Deb.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
I love that word, tinkering.
You know?
Yeah, I haven't heard that in a while, but tinkering with the internal world.
Tinkering, exactly. It's like, you know...
a little adjustment, a little shift
that's right,
in
exactly,
the inner world.
Exactly. These days, people use the word tweaking.
Tweaking, yes.
But tinkering has a little bit more of a classic edge to it. You know?
Love it.
Yeah. So this book is, in some ways, a condensing of so much of what you've done, and it's very opening. It's very heartfelt. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, like, what did you have in mind for all of us?
Well, when I read the 21-Day Consciousness Cleanse, I was just very present to that people are trying to feed the hungry ghost inside, you know, whether it's with food or the internet or doing or TV. Everybody just keeps trying to fill that hole, that endless hole that can't be filled by something in the outer world. That it's there so that we'll reconnect with our inner world, that we'll reconnect with that power, that source that can give us the love that we're looking for, that can provide us with the opportunities and the eyes to see greater realities. And so the 21-Day Consciousness Cleanse is that process of unhooking from the outer world. I always see it like little bungee cords, you know, like where we have to unhook from all the people we've given our power away to, all of our worries, our fears, our concerns, and hook back into our internal world and reconnect with that power that is greater than our self.
You know, yesterday, Debbie, when we were having a radio interview, one of the things that we referred to a few times was the Jewish tradition of which we were both born into and are part on kind of a living basis in our own ways. There is a story I remember hearing at a friend's wedding, an old Jewish tale of there being these two spirits in heaven, that one male, one female, like wandering souls, and they were lost and they couldn't find their way. And yet when they sensed each other and then they saw each other, they went, oh my God, my other half, that which completes me in another person. And so it's this old Jewish wisdom tale of there being someone on the outside as a, you know, the so-called soul mate connection. So relative to what you were just saying of unhooking from the outside world, how does that idea fit in?
Well, I think there's a deeper soulmate. We do have external soulmates, but there's an internal soulmate.
All right. That was good. I like that. Okay.
And without finding that one, you're going to have a lot of problems when you do find your soulmate in the outer world, as most people know. Yeah. Right? Relationship problems, divorce are the biggest, most heartbreaking thing that most people go through in their lifetime. And so the loss, the betrayal, all of those things. But when we find that inner soulmate, how we're designed that way. We're designed with that resource that is worth billions of dollars. You know, we don't have to pay for it. We can close our eyes. It's infinite. It always wants to give us creative ideas and tell us where to go and where to not go if we would only listen.
Yes, right.
And so
the small, still voice within that does guide us and It's our highest intelligence.
Yes, and I think
Certainly a higher one.
we're all in that trance. I think right now
Yeah.
is that there's something, whether it's that person out there, you're just going to meet them and you're going to live happily ever after. I don't know. I think to date I've met 2 people that I would actually fit into happily ever after, because I think that we've separated, and until we heal the internal split inside, that it's really hard to manifest it on the outside, because as you and I were having that conversation, the outer world is a reflection, exact blueprint of our inner world. And so when you said tinkering, that's so
Yes.
right. That's what the book is. It's every day for 21 days, doing a little internal adjustment, putting your focus on where you're holding on, where your arrogance lies, where you have a resentment. You know, with all of these different things, how do we be present? How do we take risks? Are we taking risks? You know, most people are, I love what Emmett Fox says about, you know, that
Who
when
you
we
dedicate the book to.
I dedicate the book to him because his wisdom is so profound, you know, is that, you know, we're all suffering from this disease called the malignancy of middle age, because we stop taking risks.
Yes.
We stop doing things differently. We eat the same foods.
Play it
We wear the
safely.
same kind of hair. You know, I should go dye my hair blue, actually. Actually, walking around New York City, right? And
This is
pierce
a
my
good
nose.
thing. Right.
You know, and
Oh,
try
please
some new
don't.
things. But you know,
Fuchsia is alive.
fuchsia is alive, yeah. So, you know, that's me taking a risk, wearing
Yes,
a
right.
color, because I live in black and white.
Right, right.
But to really understand, eat new foods, you know, do things
Yes,
to
exactly.
become alive. So the
Novelty.
yeah, so the book is the process, and I put in cleansing rituals every day because I believe that, you know, all living things must grow or they die. So we need to cleanse. We need to till the soil of our consciousness, so to speak, and then we can plant the seeds of our desires, or in this book that's returning us to our soul's passion, actually be able to hear the voice of our soul's desire. Not our ego's desires, but our soul's
Exactly.
desires.
Now, how do you suggest that people hear the difference between these? For many, it could be confusing.
Always so confusing. I think for most
Does
of
one
us.
like do it in D and the other A sharp?
That would be great,
Would
wouldn't
that
it?
be
Like
cool?
a different
Yeah,
note.
right, exactly. Ah, I got it. You know?
That's it. Well, how I always look is I love the distinction. Actually, I learned it from it was something from Papa G, and where he says, write down illness and write down wellness, and write them down right under each other, and then see what the difference is between the word illness and the word wellness.
My. Got it.
And the I, if you circle the I on illness, or the we on wellness. And that, isn't that profound?
Profound.
God, I just love that.
That is close reading.
That is close reading.
Yeah.
And to go back to your question, I think that when we hear a voice that's all about I, that comes from fear, that comes from those states of consciousness where we're holding on, where we're angry, where we feel victimized, where we're not connected to the we, then we can pretty much be sure that it is the voice of our ego, which for me is 90% of the time. I mean, I'm always, even though I dwell in this, you know, these people that think they're so holy, I'm like, wow, how do you...
Exactly.
But, you know, to get quiet, that's why practices, spiritual practices, are so important, because they take us into the we. Whether we get in that silence from doing yoga or meditating or dancing ecstatically or
Exactly.
chanting, it doesn't matter how you get there. But that
Exactly.
process, which is always about serving the greater whole, that's what our souls are here to do, I believe.
I think that's beautiful. Richard Moss, the doctor and teacher.
I
You know
love Richard Moss.
Yeah. He was sitting right here, not when you're there, but you know, and doing an interview with me some time ago. And I remember that he wrote a book, Debbie, years ago called "The I That Is We." You know, and I always love that, because when people do evolve on a spiritual level, they see that the idea of I-ness is a very small idea. And the idea of we, even a team, even sports is a very beautiful place to experience the we-ness. You know, it's a very practical place to do that. But as one, I think, evolves, one gets in touch with that we-ness, which is a form of oneness, really.
And wellness.
And wellness, exactly. That's beautiful. Thank you, Babaji. That really hit me, how beautiful that was.
Isn't that beautiful? And I think that we're right now in a place in time where we're starving for that community, for that we. Yeah. And in the old days, people had to live in community. And they had that. And they had a deeper connection to the earth. And I think that we're missing that. And so, you know, the really 21 Day Consciousness Cleanse really is a book that healed my own heart.
Did it?
Yeah, and these concepts and remembering. I think it's a remembering, because the I would just have you think, oh, it's all about me. I am the power greater than myself, you know, and to be humble enough and to remember every day that we can call on our guides or our angels or our God or whatever you believe in, but those powers that be to support us and to be our partners in life.
Exactly. And one of the things that we were talking about yesterday was this, you brought up that beautiful image of, in one pocket, I think you said it was from the Talmud, in one pocket are ashes, and in the other, like a crystalline diamond kind of thing, you know, and that to remember that we are both. We are from ashes, but we are crystalline like the divine itself. Not even like the divine, as the divine. And that's a powerful... How can we be both, except that we are everything?
We are everything, the dark and the light, the good and bad, the saint and the sinner, the divine and the diabolical, as Deepak would say. And that, you know, you brought it up, you know, that it's paradoxical, you know, it is.
Exactly.
And that we have to learn to hold the ambiguities and the paradoxes right inside our hands and know that, you know, until we can open our hearts, because that's what the process is, right? It's all about reopening our heart to all that we are and all that there is, instead of being closed down, shut down, and thinking, you know, this is my little world, and
exactly
on and on and on. I don't have to tell you the story.
No,
we both have heard it.
Exactly,
you know?
But it remains true, and apparently we're a little slow as a species. You know, So Debbie, when somebody embarks upon the 21-day cleanse, consciousness cleanse, what kind of things should they expect to do? What are some of the details or exercises?
Well, the first 7 days are about releasing the past and really finding the gifts. That's how we let go of the past, by finding the gifts, by really understanding why we are the way we are, why we've been through what we've been through, and what we're still holding on to. Most people never look. They don't want to know. They just keep eating on top of it or doing something in order to suppress. Yes, because it's so painful. So I'm a teacher. I mean, that's really what I do. I write because I teach. Yeah. It's not that I write and then I teach. So I have people look at what they really desire. You know, that's day one. What is your heart wanting right now? What is in your soul's best interest? And then moving into self-awareness to start being the observer of your life rather than being in your life. And so people do ceremonies. We do a whole forgiveness process, which, as you know, I love to talk about forgiveness. I feel like
it's your thing.
It's my thing. Yeah. And I've had to practice it a lot, continue to practice it. I say it's a daily mantra for all of us, to forgive ourselves, for forgive God for starving people, to forgive people that have hurt us. And
the trespasses of others.
The trespasses of others, which reminds me of having the soul food every day, for people to have a mantra that they can repeat every day and do a morning practice to start to build the desire again and the fire inside that will allow them and encourage them to let go of the past. Because on day 8, we move into the present and really start to take an inventory of our lives and what we're doing that we like and what we...
So in 7 days, we handle the past.
7 days.
I like that.
That's good, right? And
a psychoanalyst's nightmare.
Right. But you know, it doesn't
A
have to
therapist's
take.
delight.
There's still that that need to search and find and
Of
go
course.
deep, but to just
just
be able to
saying.
move forward.
Right, sure.
Right? I mean, it'd be
Look.
nice if I could wipe them out in 7 days. So on day 8, actually, we move
Yes.
into the present, which is really examining our lives and really looking at where we're playing small, what's going on around us, are we taking risks, what do we need to cultivate inside of ourselves, and giving people daily practices every single day to, get excited about cleaning up what's going on right now. So many people are stuck in bad relationships, stuck in jobs that are going nowhere, have put a project aside that they keep saying, one day, someday I'll do it.
Procrastination.
It's such an issue for people.
Totally.
And so, my specialty is drawing all that out so that, we just either deal with it or get rid of it. You don't have to do everything you said you were going to do, but if you're not going to do it, you should definitely not have that weight, right, weighing you down.
And you can always come back to it. You can also say, I had this in mind. I dropped it. I'm going to go back to it. You can always do that.
Absolutely.
Nothing. Who says? Who writes the rules?
Right, we do, but most of the time
Exactly.
they're not very inspiring to us. And since the journey is to ultimately wind up at our soul's passion,
True.
like what really matters to us, what excites us, what turns us on, what do we want to bring back into our lives? How do we want to, when we go into the future, we look at, our legacy. What do we want to
Exactly.
leave?
Right? How did we make the world a better place?
Yes.
Really?
How do we contribute? And
Right.
what is our piece?
Right.
That's unlike anybody else's piece.
Exactly.
And starting to design that by looking in the outer world and seeing what turns you on. That will remind you what really is
Really
special
does.
to you.
Exactly. Now, how can a person tell, Debbie, whether they are sort of on their game or not, or they've just gotten so accustomed to a certain routine, that they don't know how to move off of it, and they can't even see? And this is a problem. This is why relationship and why we really are social animals, I think. Having feedback from each other is our way of staying on. And so we look in each other's eyes and we can actually see ourselves. I don't think that's like a mistake that God made. I think it's all deliberate in some grand design. So how does that fit into the idea of going just to oneself and expecting oneself to come up with the reflections that we actually get from the outside world?
That's such a great question. Well, I think even when you're doing your self-examination, you're going to the outer world to get feedback, right? You're asking people, what do you love about me? What excites you about me?
Yeah.
When do you see I'm turned on? A lot of the work in the book is exercises where you have to get that outside mirroring, as you said, to know sometimes to find yourself. And so it's an exciting journey, I think, to really look at what is my soul's passion. And I think if we look from the point of we're going to be gone someday, maybe it's a
Exactly.
week, a month, a year, or 2 years, and what do I want?
Or 10 or 20 or 50.
Or 50 or
Please.
70. Okay,
Right.
sorry.
That's okay.
But what do I want said about me? What do I want to leave?
Yeah.
What do I want to be written about
And
me?
remembered by, and in our own consciousness, not just others. That's one thing, but just for our own writing in the book of life, so to speak.
Exactly. And if somebody says, I want to be known as somebody who's kind and compassionate and loving, then we have to examine, is my behavior
Yeah.
kind and compassionate and loving? And does that just mean that, many people are kind in the outer world, but they're brutal in their inner world?
That's right.
And so
That's
that's
a really important point.
yes, and
Exactly.
this is all about tinkering
Yes,
and
exactly.
creating this
Yeah.
profound love, the greatest love imaginable inside yourself.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I've got to say that you inspired me yesterday when we did the radio show, because when I got home later on that evening, and I was by myself and just kind of just being quiet with myself after meetings till almost midnight, I said, you know, you had such a glorious day. You met such a wonderful woman, and there was such a beautiful energy that got exchanged between us on some very deep points that are very important to us both on very deep personal levels. And I thought, how are you being with yourself, Mitchell? I asked myself, as a result of looking at your book. And are you, like, was that good enough for you or not? You know, I mean, how hard are you going to be on yourself? I'm saying that relative to what you were just saying. Are we kind and generous and loving on the outside and compassionate, but not compassionate with ourselves? You know, and I was just looking at it for myself. And I saw, you know, I'm pretty good with myself, but I really think there's room for improvement. And that's what I saw.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
You know?
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure.
I see that every night.
Yeah.
You know, I think our relationship to ourselves, I mean, if we really are a piece of the divine and that the divine only gets expressed through us, you know, how do we treat ourselves? How do we relate to ourselves? How are we waking up and looking in the mirror and going, oh, thank you. You know, thank you for getting out of bed today. Thank you for brushing your teeth today.
Yeah,
thank you for choosing to, you know, not murder my mother today. You know, whatever the issue is. Or mother-in-law, yeah. And to just really give ourselves more credit.
There we go.
We deserve more credit and more compassion. And that takes a lot of the work that's in the first 14 days to get to that point where your heart starts opening and you start feeling gentler and kinder and more compassionate, where you can give yourself a break. There's nobody worse, right? Nobody meaner than how,
Exactly. I just consolidated that. But,
I love that.
Last 7 days. Enlightenment.
The last 7 days is the future, so it's really standing in what I see as soul power, you know, like reconnecting and start really living today as you want to be in the present. It's going to take time to become congruent and to have the person that you're creating in the future actually show up. But if you don't examine it, if you don't really know who you want to be or how you want to live your life or what's important to you, the level of integrity, just to examine the level of integrity. And most of us are in such violation to our own soul's integrity, whether it's taking care of ourselves in the future, putting money away, cleaning up, doing our wills, cleaning our closets out, all of those things.
Just doing what we say we're going to do.
Yes, hello.
Just staying true to our word. Yeah. What did you say?
I said, yes, hello.
Exactly. I mean, is that like in itself like the large piece of our inner work?
It is.
To remember what we've said.
Yeah.
Because our word is law in the universe.
Yeah.
And to abide by that. Even if it's, I'm going to do my laundry today. Or especially when it comes to other people. But you know what? Maybe not. Maybe all of it.
I completely agree. I mean, that when we are the greatest expression of ourselves and we are like, wow, I love who I am, then we are one with that greatest power in the universe. And our consciousness is clear, and then we can really plant the seeds and start manifesting the things that are important to us. Most people are working on small potatoes instead of being open to the whole universe and what's available to them.
Exactly. It's really true. So what when someone completes the 21 day, I said enlightenment, you know, I'm having fun, but like, what did it feel like for you to have arrived at doing this diligently as you did at that point? What was was there a feeling of catharsis, of just inner contentment, like an inner purring? You know?
Inner purring. That is a great description. Just really knowing
it comes from
that
tinkering.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that consciousness, you can go to a low level of consciousness in a second. Somebody comes in, says you lost your job, somebody got hurt, somebody's
yeah.
sick, right? You didn't finish, you forgot to call somebody important
You're
back.
shooting and somebody makes a loud, vexatious noise.
Exactly, boom, your level of consciousness goes in the gutter.
Exactly.
And then, our job, right, as spiritual beings is to keep raising it. So I
Yeah.
think at the end of this process, I was just so certain, because I had to practice all the time, that you can go from a minute of desperation to a moment of joy. And that mastery, really becoming enlightened, is that mastery to know when you go what I would call bottom surfing, that you can rise above and enjoy,
Exactly. That
the
is
yummies of
beautiful.
life.
Exactly. So, in a sense, you're saying, Debbie, that flexibility, resilience, being rubber band like, willowy, is all so important to see that we can go from the animal of us to the divinity of us, literally in a snap. And if we can get away with not judging the animal part, then we are free to fly.
Love it. Couldn't have said it better. And Charles Dubois said, when we're willing to give up who we are today for the person we can become. And so
Oh,
that's the
yes.
flexibility to just, okay, who I am is okay, but let's see what the next greatest expression and evolution of this self can be. And what a party. That should be fun. We should be like kids. I have a 15-year-old thrilled to be growing up. That's how
Exactly.
we should be.
That's right. Debbie, this has been so beautiful. Really, I have so enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Thank you, Mitchell. I love it.
And thank you so much for your body of work. It has brought you onto Oprah and now onto A Better World. Who
I
would have-
finally got here. Thank you.
Exactly, absolutely. Your sister has been here, and now it's time for you to. And I'm just so glad to be here to help people know about your work, to our audience, and just to support you in continuing this good work that you're doing. You've just opened up such a space for people in your work with the shadow and getting underneath, the outer layers. So truly thank you.
Thank you.
This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World. Go visit Debbie's website at
DebbieFord.com.
You kept it simple. God bless. And of course, visit our website, www.abetterworld.net. Thanks so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that as I did. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.